teaching you how to perform CPR that you just mentioned there. We've got one on our Instagram page.
We do. Now, while some illnesses can be treated in hospital, there are other conditions that are much harder to tackle. Now, since the pandemic, over 100,000 children have dropped out of the education system. Now, some have simply never returned, and others are persistently absent due to conditions like anxiety.
Presenter OJ Borge has had first-hand experience of his own child refusing to go to school, so he wanted to find out what help there is for families who are facing the same situation.
More than 140,000 school children in England are officially severely absent, missing at least 50% of classes. Some simply vanished off the school registers after the pandemic. These are so-called ghost children, and there are major worries over their welfare. But there are others who are the so-called school refusers, who are too anxious to attend class. I know all about this category as I have a child who is one of them.
There is a lot of shame involved for children and parents when school avoidance happens. It makes you feel like a failure, something I know all too well, myself and my wife, and it's risen massively since pre-pandemic levels. To put it simply, some children have never gone back.
While I'm new to the world of emotionally based school avoidance, or EBSA, I'm certainly not alone. Liz is mum to 10-year-old Amber. It's a busy time for Amber as she is preparing for her SATs exams and in a matter of months will be moving to high school. But she's refusing to attend school, only making it once or twice a week.
I guess the first question is, how did this morning go?
Not well. We made it as far as the school grounds. We spent about an hour just by the gate, and then I had to make the decision that we weren't going to make it in. A couple of weeks ago, she wouldn't go off the driveway. She laid for 2 hours, just laid prone on the driveway. If I push her, if I abandon her, then I'm someone she trusts, and she needs to trust that I'm going to do what's best for her, I think. So yeah, we came home.
What was that like for you when you came home?
It's hard. I often have a little cry and feel really guilty and replay over the morning and decide whether I did the right thing.
Amber is autistic and struggles with large groups of people, which is one of the reasons she refuses to go to school.
Is she fine when she's in school?
She's told me that she's scared, she doesn't feel safe, she's anxious, she's worried. That's not being fine, but she appears fine because she'll nod and smile and say that she's okay if a teacher asks her.
How much time do you spend, though, beating yourself up about it?
Hours and hours. I've had to take time off work sometimes because the stress on me has been so much that it feels like I'm spinning so many plates. I lie awake at night thinking about it.
Do you find yourself constantly asking, what do I do? And getting so many different bits of advice, you then still don't know what to do?
Yeah, and I have to say her school, I would say they're pretty supportive and will give advice. Even this morning, the teacher's saying, oh, just leave her. And then someone else will say, oh, have you tried giving her rewards? Have you tried bribing her? We have tried that, and in the short term that works, and then it stops working.
Do you know, it's more than just social pressure. Parents of children not attending school often live in fear of prosecution, with fines totalling £8.6 million last year.
Has anyone ever contacted you about attendance?
Yes, I've had a letter this year, which is the first in the process, which says that Amber is now what is considered persistently absent. I have heard about parents who have gone through prosecution for this kind of thing, and it keeps me awake.
Rob Williams is the policy advisor for the National Association of Head Teachers. A former head teacher himself, he recently gave evidence to the Government Select Committee on school attendance.
If my child or a child is permanently not in school, how could it affect their future?
Depends really for the reasons why they're absent, and what we're seeing is obviously school absence is really a symptom of sometimes of underlying issues. So that might be a mental health issue, an issue with anxiety, or it might be other issues in the family. We know from absence figures that the children who at the end of primary school start to get into a pattern of non-attendance, the risk is when they go into secondary school that worsens over the first few years of high school, and of course as they lead into their formal qualifications, the GCSEs and so forth, that can have a big impact.
But when we get into children who aren't going to school at all, I've heard them referred to as ghost children. Who are those ghost children? Because they don't seem to appear on any register at all.
Children who not re-engaged, that are missing at least half of their education. And the problem for those, of course, is that when they're not in school, it's unclear where they are. Safeguarding is everybody's responsibility, and so I think we all have a role to play in that. And it's important we know where children are just to make sure we can keep them safe.
But do you know this problem? It is getting worse, not better. Dr. Paul Kelly is an educational psychologist who works with school refusers. His job is to make recommendations on the best way forward for everyone involved.
5 years ago, I'd never heard of EBSA, I'd never heard of it, possibly because I didn't have a child who was going through it. Is it becoming more common?
The statistics tell us that there are more children struggling to attend school. We are more aware of it, and for those two reasons, it's certainly in our everyday life more as psychologists than it was a long time ago, definitely.
What would be your 3 takeaways? Things, if they think their child, or maybe they have missed a day or there's that anxiety in the evening, what would you do? Your 3 takeaways.
First of all, set aside time, not just once, but over and over again, to talk with your child, and more important than talking, listen, but really listen with open ears. The second is maintain a good relationship with the school. Be honest about the difficulties you're experiencing at home. And the third thing I would say is be aware of the pressure you are under as a parent. The pressure to get your child to attend, the pressure to fix the problem, and in this situation, try, if you can, take that pressure off yourself. You're unlikely to be able to fix it with any quick fix. It's going to take time.
This today has been one of the most personal things that I've worked on. One thing I have learned is that it's okay. Do not beat yourself up as a parent, because it's overwhelming, but there are specialists, there are people who can help you and find what is right for your child.
Yeah, gosh, I've actually got a few friends who are going through a very similar thing to OJ. And, you know, the school support's so important, just having that support. It's a lot of pressure on the family.
So hard. We heard it from the film there. Parents almost feeling guilty, which
Yeah,
they shouldn't,
of course
but
not.
Great film, and thank you to OJ and Liz there.